You're trying to stay ahead, right? You want to understand, like, the real science behind living longer, feeling better, but without wading through tons of dense research papers. We totally get it.
Hmm.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into something that's been popping up more and more.
Hmm.
Spermidine. You might be hearing about it
Yeah.
in foods, maybe supplements too.
Yeah, definitely. Spermidine is it's generating quite a bit of interest, and it seems for good reason. It's this natural molecule, well, compound
Mm-hmm.
that scientists are looking at really closely for its potential health roles.
Okay.
So our mission today really is to break it down. What actually is spermidine? What's the real evidence say about what it does, especially, for longevity and keeping cells healthy?
And that whole food versus supplement thing, right?
Yeah.
That seems key.
Exactly. How does getting it from, say, cheese compare to popping a pill? We've looked at the studies, the food sources. We'll try to make sense of it all.
All right, let's jump right in. Spermidine. I mean, the name itself sounds a bit clinical.
Huh? Yeah, it does a bit. But it's actually totally natural. It's a polyamine, and honestly, it's in pretty much every living organism. Bacteria, plants, us.
Wow, okay. So everywhere. But what does it do inside us? What are the important bits?
Well, it seems to have some really fundamental jobs at the cellular level. Think of it as crucial for keeping things running smoothly.
Fundamental. Like what specifically? Give us the highlights.
Okay, probably the biggest one people talk about is autophagy.
Autophagy. That's the cellular cleanup process, right?
Okay.
Like taking out the trash.
Exactly. It's how cells get rid of old, damaged parts.
Hmm.
Super important for, well, healthy aging. Spermidine is thought to really help kickstart that process.
Okay, autophagy. What else?
It also seems to play a role in keeping our DNA stable, which is obviously huge. And it's involved in cell growth, proliferation, and even helping to regulate inflammation.
So quite a few important jobs. Let's go back to autophagy, though. How does spermidine actually trigger it? What's the mechanism there?
Right. So the science suggests it works partly by interacting with specific proteins. There's one called EP300.
EP300. Okay.
Yeah. And EP300 normally acts kind of like a brake on autophagy. Spermidine seems to inhibit it. Basically, it steps on that brake.
Ah, so it removes the blocker, letting the cleanup happen more easily.
You got it. It kind of turns up the dimmer switch on cell cleaning, you could say. It also seems to activate other pathways, specific signals that tell the cell how to respond to stress and stay healthy.
Interesting. Okay, so we've seen, like, in labs with yeast, flies, mice.
Mm.
Giving them spermidine seemed to help them live longer, almost like mimicking calorie restriction.
Yeah, those early studies were definitely promising. They showed lifespan extension, boosted autophagy, really encouraging results in those models.
But the big question always is, does it work in us? In humans? Where are we with that research?
That's the crucial point, isn't it? And honestly, the human studies are still pretty early stage. We're seeing some signals, some biological activity, but, well, we're not yet seeing clear slam dunk clinical benefits.
Right. I remember hearing about the SmartAge trial. That was 2022, 2023. What came out of that one?
Yeah, the SmartAge trial, they looked at older adults who felt like their memory was slipping a bit, subjective cognitive decline.
Okay.
And, well, the spermidine supplement didn't significantly improve their memory scores compared to the placebo group.
Ah, okay. So not the result maybe some were hoping for there.
Not on the main memory outcome, no. But interestingly, they did see changes in the expression of certain genes related to autophagy. So it suggests the supplement was having some kind of biological effect at the cellular level, even if it didn't translate to better memory in that specific trial.
Okay, so a biological effect, but not a clear clinical one. And wasn't there something more recent, like this year?
Yes, exactly. There's a study under peer review right now, so still being checked by other scientists,
Got it.
that reported modest increases in some blood markers linked to autophagy in people taking spermidine supplements.
Modest increases. Okay, so again, hinting at some biological action.
Yeah, pretty much. It suggests the supplement is doing something influencing these pathways. But again, and this is really important, these biomarker changes haven't yet been clearly linked to tangible health improvements in people in these trials.
Right. It's like we see a switch being flipped, but we don't yet know what lights turn on down the hall, so to speak.
That's a great analogy. We're still mapping it out in humans. We see some activity, but the overall picture of clinical benefit, it's just not there yet based on current evidence for supplements.
Okay, that's a really clear picture on the supplement side for now. But you mentioned earlier, what about just eating foods that contain spermidine? The sources we looked at seem to suggest that's where things get maybe more interesting.
Yes, and this is a really critical distinction. A lot of the positive associations, the really eye-catching stuff, seems linked to dietary spermidine intake.
Like what kind of associations?
Well, there was a large observational study, followed people over a long time, and it found that those with the highest intake of spermidine from their food had a significantly lower risk of dying from any cause.
Whoa, hang on. Lower risk of overall mortality? How much lower?
Up to 30% lower, according to that particular study, which
Oh,
is, yeah, pretty striking.
30%. That's huge, just from food intake.
Based on the associations found in that study, yes. Now, it's observational, so it shows a link, not necessarily direct cause and effect, but it's a very strong link.
Okay, so why the difference? Why might eating spermidine be linked to these big benefits while the supplement trials are still kind of inconclusive?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And scientists are definitely trying to figure that out. One likely factor is absorption and bioavailability.
How well we actually get it into our system and use it.
Exactly. When you eat whole foods, you're not just getting spermidine. You're getting fiber, vitamins, minerals, other phytonutrients, this
Yeah.
whole complex matrix.
I mean, the whole package.
And it's possible these other components work synergistically, maybe helping with absorption or having their own benefits that complement spermidine. Plus, as we touched on, some supplement trials, even using high doses, they didn't actually see significant increases in spermidine levels in people's blood or saliva, which definitely raises questions about how well those supplement forms are being absorbed or utilized.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The body might just handle it differently when it comes as part of food.
Oh.
Okay, so if we're leaning towards food, which ones should we be looking for? What are the spermidine superstars?
All right, let's list some of the top dietary sources. Keep in mind these are approximate values per 100 grams, which is about 3.5 ounces.
Got it. Lamb on us.
Okay, number one, way out in front is wheat germ. It packs around 24 milligrams.
Wow, okay. Wheat germ.
Yep. Then you have soybeans, especially fermented ones like natto, that can range quite a bit, maybe 10 to 20 milligrams.
Natto.
Mm-hmm.
The sticky fermented soybeans. Might be acquired taste for some.
Possibly. But high in spermidine. Next, aged cheddar cheese. This has around 2 to 5 milligrams.
Cheese, that's more approachable.
Definitely. Then green peas, about 1.9 milligrams. Mushrooms, particularly shiitake and oyster mushrooms, are around 1 to 2 milligrams.
Okay, mushrooms, peas, cheese, getting easier.
Then there's broccoli, about 1.6 milligrams. Cauliflower, around 1.2 milligrams.
Good cruciferous veggies.
Yep. Whole grains, too, like oats, brown rice, they generally fall in the 1 to 2 milligram range.
Makes sense.
Getting lower down the list, mango has just under 1 milligram, maybe 0.9, and pumpkin seeds are around a 0.8 milligrams.
That's a great list. Really helpful. And I think you mentioned something about fermented or aged foods being generally higher.
Yes, that seems to be a pattern. Things like aged cheese, natto, the processes of fermentation and aging can actually boost spermidine content. And there's also a thought, though we need more research, that these forms might be more bioavailable, easier for us to absorb.
Interesting. Maybe the microbes involved are doing some of the work for us.
Could be part of it, yeah.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for everyone listening. They've heard about the molecule, the science, the food.
Mm-hmm.
What's the actionable takeaway here? What should people do with this info?
Well, connecting it all back, I think the most solid conclusion right now relates to diet. The evidence linking higher dietary spermidine intake to positive health outcomes, like that lower mortality risk, that's quite robust and growing.
Right. That 30% figure really sticks with you.
It does. On the other hand, the science on supplemental spermidine, it's intriguing. It shows biological activity, but those clear, proven clinical benefits in humans just aren't established yet.
So the bottom line for now seems to be focus on your plate.
I'd say that's the most evidence-based approach currently. If you're interested in spermidine's potential benefits, concentrating on getting more of those spermidine-rich foods into your diet seems like a really sound strategy.
Like adding wheat germ to smoothies, maybe trying aged cheddar instead of younger cheese, eating more mushrooms, peas, broccoli.
Exactly. Simple swaps and additions. It doesn't have to be drastic.
Ah.
Incorporating these foods into a generally healthy eating pattern.
It sounds much more achievable, and based on current science, potentially more effective than just taking a pill right now.
Precisely. We should absolutely keep watching the research on supplements. It might evolve significantly. But for today, the strongest message is that dietary spermidine, as part of that whole food package, looks very promising for supporting health and longevity.
Okay, so spermidine, definitely one to keep an eye on, especially the ongoing research. But the big reminder seems to be, once again, about the power of what we consistently put on our plates.
Yeah.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Maybe exploring that cheese counter or adding some mushrooms to dinner is a good next step. Thanks. This was super insightful.
My pleasure. And, it leads to a broader thought for everyone listening. Given what we know now about spermidine and diet, what other simple, consistent dietary or lifestyle choices might you be making, or could you be making, that could compound over time for your long-term health? Sometimes the most powerful levers aren't the newest supplements, but the foundational habits we build every day. Something to chew on.